Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome here. Welcome on Crowdcast and Zoom. Thank you all so much for being here, and thanks, Brenda, for coming to us with this wonderful group reading. Really thrilled to be able to host you all again here and a couple on Zoom, so that's wonderful too, bringing people together from all over. Really grateful to be the host venue for this. I don't want to talk too long here. I'm Mike Wendt. I'm the program director here at Woodland Pattern. Thank you. And thanks. Yeah, I don't know if that was for me or Woodland Pattern, but either way, it was. It's great. But I do a few things worth mentioning though before I turn things over to Brenda and Janet and the readers. One is that we do have books for sale out in the bookstore by many of the poets reading this evening. And as Brenda always says, when you're in the presence of a great writer, buy their book. So. And that goes for you tuning in on Crowdcast as well. You can visit our online book center at woodlandpatternbookcenter.com. I hope you'll come back for some other stuff. July is a little quiet, but one thing we do have that's a whole lot of fun for poets, all the poets in the audience who are based nearby, is our open mic, Resound Return. The next it's the last Friday of every month, so the next is July 28th at 7 p.m. So come read some more poems then if you're around these parts, or if you want to travel back here too, just for that. I don't have any other announcements or anything else to say. Mostly I just wanted to say thanks for doing this here, and really grateful, and welcome, Brenda.
Listen, 1:30 conversation. Well, this is my BFF. Thanks to Woodland Pattern. We want to thank Woodland Pattern for hosting us and for being what you are, the incredible presence you are in Milwaukee. And we just don't know what we writers would do without you.
So good evening and welcome all to Woodland Pattern and tonight's reading. So those here and all of you out there. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jennerjohn, and this is my dear friend Brenda Cárdenas. We are the Milwaukee contingent of the Matrix. A group of 15 writers who gather every Friday morning on Zoom to share our love of words and write poetry. We zoom in from all over the country: New York, Massachusetts, Colorado, California, Texas, Florida, and Wisconsin. And on most weeks, we are also joined by our dear friend, Marion Wren, often toasting us with a glass of wine or whiskey at 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time.
PM.
Let me finish. Everybody knows better, right? Because she is joining us from a very different time zone in Abu Dhabi, where it is happy hour. We come from diverse groups, different ages, different ethnic and racial backgrounds, different professional and social spheres, different lived histories that have brought us all together to form the Matrix. So my dear friend Vita will explain a little bit how this all happened.
Never correct Janet Jennerjohn. Okay? Well, how did this start? This started because one day I was lucky enough to receive a call from my dear friend Michele Kotler, right there, whom I have known since we went to graduate school together. We did our MFA together at the University of Michigan, and that was a millennia ago. But we stayed friends, and Michele called me one day during the pandemic in 2020 and said, would you like to start a writing group where we meet on Zoom and we don't workshop each other's writing, we don't critique, but we generate, a generative workshop. And she had this idea using word banks, and I said, yes, of course. And she said, I know a few other people that I can invite, and she invited Marion and Robin, I believe, at that time. I was about to go on sabbatical, so it was like perfect timing for me. And we started it, and then we just kept inviting more and more people, more and more women. It's just stayed solid ever since then. So thanks to Michele for having the idea. Yeah.
So what started out as a weekly gathering of writers has turned into a gathering of family. We love each of these women dearly and feel so honored that they have come to spend a little time with us in our city by the lake. And we're so happy that you will all be able to meet them tonight. 10 of us will be reading in person, and 2, Iris Jamahl Dunkle and Ruth Ellen Coker, will be joining us via Zoom. Unfortunately, 3 of our group will not be joining us tonight: Bethany Price, Catherine Esposito Prescott, and Marion Wren. All wonderful poets whose work we hope you will seek out. Tonight, each of us will read for only 5 minutes. We promise not to keep you here until the northern lights appear in the Wisconsin sky. So with further ado, we are going to, is it Ruth or Iris?
Iris, yeah.
Please welcome Iris Jamahl Dunkle. Thank you.
Can you guys hear me? Yes! Okay, great. Hello, it's such an honor to get to be here virtually. Since I'm not there in person, I'm really sad not to be in the room. But it's been such an honor to get to write with these amazing women every week. So I'm gonna read 2 poems. The first one is from my book, Westfire Archive. And this is called What We Left Behind Was Corporeal. Sometimes history is built from thousands of teeth left in the walls by previous inhabitants. Sometimes it is written over in bone. Calopius argued that the ancient women warriors known as Amazons were likely just men in drag, because how could an army of women found cities and defeat even greater armies entirely composed of men? Luckily, this theory didn't take. Young girls can still dream of muscled, sword-wielding sisters, but he is not alone rewriting what past we see from here. Oftentimes, truth is tucked into walls like those teeth, hidden in plain sight. Take Sulpicia, Roman woman whose poems were neatly written into Tibullus' book because she couldn't publish under Roman law. All but forgotten until some scholar found her hidden poems. And even then, she was dismissed. Reader, it's our job to look, find secret passages between then and now, insist that there were more voices than the ones who got to write the story down. History is a body we all breathe life into. I have one more poem. This is from an erasure of the Grapes of Wrath that I'm doing. And it's telling the story of my grandmother who came over in the Dust Bowl and the story of Sonora Bab. This is called Canto 18, Dust Bowl, a Fugue. 1. When my grandmother's story finally lands, her tongue has become dust, her 14-year-old body an automatron stuffing sticky peaches into tin cans from sun up to sundown. When she meets the man with a starlight smile and curls the color of midnight, she can't help but soften. Soon her belly swells and swells again until she is stuck in another automated life. Diapers and dinner and sticky reaching hands, days wave their white flags, becoming years. 2. As the years passed, the man with midnight curls became a dark ship that sailed farther and farther away. The few times he returned, he brought remnants back from the world, the place she would never get to see. Rare stones and dark, loamy soil were placed in glass cases like at a museum. When his ship disappeared, my grandmother's rage began to sprout in the soil, to wrap its roots around the rare stones. Her fury began to spin around her like a golden lasso, a hoop of fire she could never step through. So she sent her children, carefully placing her stories in each of their mouths. Thank you. Next up, we have Ruth Ellen Kotler reading.
There's Iris. Hi, Iris. There's Iris. There's backs of the heads of my friends. Hi! Okay, so my vocal cords are challenged, which means I can't project so much. So you have to lean in a little, okay? 2 short poems from a book that Omnidon's publishing in a few months that was a gift to me from this group of women, my 8th book and the first one that just happened because I was loving what I was doing with these people. I get giddy about them. The first, Cephalogenesis, this book is titled God House. Cephalogenesis. In November, a life fertilizes an embryo. In December, panic begins. In January, her mother calls her whore. The northeastern sky is crisp, brutal. The trees are raked hands everywhere. In a very fine suit, Malcolm is gunned down. February has no mercy. The bullet tunnels a quantum path through the Badlands behind time. March is bloody. Selma will never heal. July becomes my body becoming a terror. The skull of a century splits in two. My mother tells me I am a god. I believe her. Lapsarian, the first god was stolen from her home, or her home was stolen from her. Her home is being stolen now since all time is the same. When I say body, I mean monster. When I say time, I mean land. I say we instead of cosmos, as in we embrace a fleshed affliction. When a god consumes a body, the body can only crave. Forget gods. Think monsters, unhomed. We're the same. Thank you. And now, Jane, lovely Creighton.
Ruth just makes me want to weep. So grateful to Woodland Pattern. Not going to make a big speech about any of it. I just love you all. Love Robin Reagler for bringing me into this group and all of you here. So what luck. I've got 2 July poems from the last couple of years. I wouldn't have had them if I hadn't been able to join this group, so I'm really grateful for it. This one, which Nicole Callihan shared with me at one point, got written at our first retreat in Brooklyn last summer. And it's a poem that seems to be part of something that I'm working on about my sister and I entering age and late age, not only in the context of our family, but in the context of our country and this time. Brooklyn, sisters walking. Moving through shades and shadows, bright sunlight on dark places, steps as fleeting as the little things they remember while walking. She floats not quite like a butterfly across a memory of this, a memory of that, framed as we all frame it by what they know, what they choose to know now. Whether or not they choose, they think, they walk. The trash barrel at the top of the block, nothing more than a goal, a receptacle for crumpled paper, receipts, stained napkins, indecipherable paraphernalia of the city in bunches, branches, plastic bottles, punched or flattened, all the detritus of brittle, casual hungers she picks up and drops there in good conscience. A woman who cleans her block, wondering out loud why her neighbors, many of whom she no longer knows, can't be bothered. Time is. Time was. Dove call. And this maybe it's either 2020 or 2021, but another July poem. July Ides, a guzzle. Something recollected under clear and present weather spins currents dust clouds spilling under the weather. Barefoot, late afternoon, blistering porch boards you can't stand still for. Under the weather, a poisonous rupture midpoint. You'd been doing well. Plump sleep, satisfied waking, hunger, under the weather. Just don't tell me you're fine. Fine. Come on in. Dive down. The old dirt cellar door open. Under the weather, an empty coal scuttle, dim remembered shapes, flank stone walls, a perfect place to hide under the weather. If we could only live in the past. You thought it, shame to admit. That old dreamt house under the weather storms the mind, an irreducible loss and therefore limitless, perfect. A stone-dropped ripple, radiant under the weather. Old, elegant sorrow's blanket time. The present sucked flat when you act this way, shriveling yourself under weather instead of bending toward the light, if frightening touch of the near world passing and breaking into this weather. Where do you think you live? Faint, bellowing mist permeates gathering crowds. Under the weather, they dart and slide beside themselves, clap hands. Don't stifle yourself. Slip your fingers under the weather and lift the slippery, drifting weight, Jane. The choir of infinite mortal cells carrying all of us under the weather. And I get to welcome our general, our general for this retreat, Laura Cronk.
Thank you, Jane, and thank you to everyone here. I'm so proud and honored to be here. I'm going to be reading two poems. The first poem I wrote yesterday morning with our group, with my sister's words, and edited after a visit to the incredible Milwaukee, is it Art Museum or Museum of Art? Milwaukee Art Museum. And the title was a word uttered by Janet Jennerjohn that made its way into the Matrix. Sejura. Cull the images, break them by color. Sitting with you on the stoop was a color after twilight. The color drained and darkened, humid. My right arm pressed to your left. This image reading black and white, blurring with each passing July, the hazy sibilance of street lights and no light. I can still see that sweat was silver on your skin, your tank top a white sail on a glistening boat, but your collarbone was the shore. Soon I'd want to be water breaking against it. Soon my roommate would walk up, brown-black dress shoes on gray-black sidewalk. He would stop a beat, look up at us, call us puppies, tell us to go inside before we're robbed. The floor is littered black and white now, the images thin, Bible paper, feathers, leaves, fanned and scattered, a bearable, unbearable weightlessness. Cull the images and break them. Do it, I say aloud to my body, gone suddenly deaf. Thank you. And this is a poem. I teach at the New School, and I have a dear New School comrade here. Peter, I'm so happy to see you. But a former student, I ran into him at a reading, and he is a veteran of the Army, and he said, I never told you when you were my teacher, but I just had this sense that you're a general, or maybe in a past life you were a general. And and I laughed, and he was like, no, I'm serious. And I kept thinking about it, and then the next morning we had our Matrix writing group. And so the seed of this poem came out. And I believe someone dropped in a word, I won't say my guess of who it was, referencing male anatomy, and I think that helped push me in the direction of this poem, though it was later edited out. The general. It's true that I was a general, and that I'm a general now. I've never said it out loud. What it's like watching a command hang in the air. The stop motion effect, the moment before someone is irrevocably changed. Sometimes I enter what I think is inevitable, a flow, but it's a trap. Someone dies, something does. Whole flocks of precious people, swaths of precious earth. And yet sometimes being a general is the opposite of destruction. The reason I do this, life after life, what doubles my blood, what I step right into, eyes gleaming, spiritual tendrils lit up, is giving orders. Giving orders, say to you, giving you orders to do something you really want to do. And now it is my sincere pleasure to welcome my sister, the pride of Milwaukee, Dita Brenda Cárdenas.
Thank you, Laura. Oh, I won't even start going into what this group has meant to me, but I really believe my writing practice was dying until I came together with them. And now it's really alive again, so I'm really grateful. And I have this book, Trace, that came out in April, and I was just really surprised when I was looking through it how many of the poems came out of the Matrix, how many of them started in that writing group. And one I'm gonna read is one that I was really gobsmacked, was on Poetry Unbound, the podcast that Padraig Otuma does, where he reads a poem way better than I can read it. And then he talks about it. He does a deep analysis of it or reading of it. And so this poem is called This Is Why. And my mom's in the audience, but she knew all I did was bad stuff as a youngster. So this is why. At dusk, we pulled and shoved a patio table beneath cousin's bedroom window, then yawned a lot as we sat on the couch with her dad, pretending to nod off to the evening news. I almost said, "It's been a long day," but realized that would be too much 17-year-old going on 50 for Uncle to believe. We snuck off to bed where we changed into patched Levi's, marijuana pickers, local number 13 t-shirts, and earth shoes. I slid out the window first, almost toppling the picnic table with my clumsy landing, cousin behind me already laughing. To the park for our weekly search, crossing fingers that someone had dropped their bag of weed or flicked their fat joint when the cops circled for the second time. Of course, we never found the goods lying in the grass, but we found friends with pockets full of other secrets that we hid beneath our tongues until they melted. Later, when adults ask, why? Why would you be so reckless? I describe the ease of pulling myself back up to the window ledge, gently tumbling into bed, pulling the blanket up to my chin as a bluster rustled dry leaves in the sill. I explain how I watched 3 pairs of orange and pink-tinged maple leaves swirl to my feet, how they unwrinkled themselves, stood up tall, one in each couple bowing before they raised their hands, touched fingertips, and began to waltz to Tchaikovsky. tangerine skirts twirling into yellow. How elegant the soiree I witnessed at my feet. Why would you miss that, I ask. And then this one I have to read because it references an experience I had with Michele Kotler once on the way to visit Janet Jennerjohn and Mauricio Killen Guevara. It references a time in my life when Janet really helped me at the end of a divorce. And as far as I'm concerned, it's for all of these women, right? And it's called Sisters. I have gotten so tangled in construction cones, growling yellow machines, and orange-chested men that I've veered onto the wrong side of the highway, cement barricades blocking me from veering back to the safe side until seconds before twisted metal and blackout. My sister not screaming or fainting, but picking the thread of the conversation right back up, as though we had only blinked. See, my sister is a sister of another sister, and we don't leave the weave of each other's minds easily. My sister is a rowboat rocking against shore, waiting for me to wake, unmoor us from the dock. My sister is a clay box full of secrets, the kind you find tucked in a seashell's curve or a handwritten note folded into a triangle, the kind she whispers in a language only sisters can decode. She brings good news, waits by my side for the bad news. My sister helps me pack, drives the truck stuffed with my failures home, and unpacks them all. She is the one who helps me lift words heavy as coffins. She keeps me moving. She keeps. Her conch shell calls all our sisters to the shores of rising waters, oil slicking the surface to clean up the mess we have made of the sister who birthed us all. And very quickly, a little one that Michele Kotler said I had to read. This is really naughty. And, you know, somebody in the group has to bring some levity. So I guess that's my job. And this is for Anne Kingsbury. Any of you who know Anne Kingsbury know her art and her beavers? Okay. So, doesn't have a title yet. Brave beaver queen lost her virginity while fishing for fresh trees one twilight. The pond with its lily pad pillows made the perfect divan, but when her boyfriend and his stamen lunged at her too hungrily, she slapped him with her thick flat tail and bared her beaver teeth. Slow down, rocket ship. No wham bam, thank you ma'am, in this neck of the woods. I want to see you drool. She lay among the buttercups, sweet spires, downy goosenecks tickling her in all the right places when he finally got it. Must have learned something from the caterpillars inching along the delphinium. He stroked her beaver fur with abandon, crisscrossed her beaver belly with his beaver tongue, and hot damn, her body's music became tonic. They pulled up like crisp summer sheets as the frogs sang the world green, and they drifted off to sleep in the old stone boat. And now I am very, very happy to introduce Nicole Callihan. If Nicole were a city, she would be Venice.
This is amazing. I love it so much. I love this place. It's great. So many books. I love it. So I came in a little later to the crowd, early 2021, but I was in the weeds very much. I had gotten breast cancer diagnosis in September 2020. And so I was like in the midst of all these surgeries and radiation. And for some reason I was like, I want to write poems with you people. I was just really seeking out poetry. So, and I felt so loved and so welcomed. And out of that came this book, This Strange Garment. So poems that I was writing in that time. And so I'm going to read one of the poems from the book that I first wrote with The Matrix. Do you like that? The Matrix. And I'll read another. But this group whipped me into shape, and last summer got this book together for me, told me my title was crappy. all the things you want people to do for you. So I love you all. 18 months later, I find a tampon in the little flower pouch I keep in my bag, and a lighter, just in case I start smoking again, or the oophorectomy failed and I'm still releasing eggs. Now I can tell you that Ethan Hawke twice made eye contact with me on the streets of Brooklyn, and so as to spare my family from our affair, I looked away. And pop quiz, guess who I saw read all new poems at Bryant Park last night? It seemed like rain, but Nick Flynn, who I also find hot, or found hot, back when I was more inclined to arbitrary desire. I just kicked at the dirt and talked to Nick about high school acceptance letters, where Maeve might go, where Eva. Didn't mention star migration or cancer, just started name dropping. Oh yeah, Ada loves rose petal lattes. Why confront the rancid, the desiccated, the sublime when you can talk about the weather? Which fish to release into the sea? My anesthesiologist looked like Keanu Reeves with a beehive and asked me to count backwards from 10. I was all, are you wearing eyeliner? 10, 9, 8. I was lit from within. 7, 6. And when I woke up, 5, 4, 3, I shined. 1, like so much sun through a hospital window. And this is called A Little Sorrow in the title. Ruth, I hope you're here. A Little Sorrow in the title. I settled for the reverse narrative, the after ever happily. I'd purchased a dragon, a handful of teeth in a tin. They'd advertised it as a rattle, a surgeon's veil, some oil of Olay, a few parasites. The water rippled, and I stood very close to it, having a conversation with myself. In our session the week before, the handsome Dr. Greer suggested that if I weren't afraid of water, I'd likely drown. Touché, Dr. Greer. If you imagine humanity as the stained banister of the stairwell, in such that it's fairly easy to paint over a stain. Oh, hey, what's your name? You got a little something in your teeth. I've been pleasant enough, my rage modest, my attempts at betrayal weak, picket fences, perishables. My husband used to call me a time bomb. Now he calls me sweetie. True story. You can call me anytime. Is your refrigerator running? Most very funny things are very true and obvious or a little mean, and many are both. The laconic careening. Where's Robin? Robin's with a rabbit. Where's Robin's rabbit? I bet you wish you knew. Oh boy, there was a lot of lice that winter. I woke up from surgery and the room barely had a window and my head was itching so bad. And I was like, Mom, if I had lice and I just had my breast cut off, the world would be so fucking ridiculous. And she was like, Nicole, don't curse. You don't have lice. But I did. Now it's gone. Lots of things are. An intimacy with loss and other poems. Our next reader is Amy Lemmon.
I'm one of the babies of the group, not in age, obviously, but I joined in February 2023, and I want to thank Michele Kotler for inviting me. We've known each other, we realized, for 20 years, but I was really excited, scared, a lot of feelings. I live in New York City, like Michele and some others, and I really appreciate the space to write about some pretty traumatic things. I think a lot of you've already heard some things that are pretty intense that have happened in people's lives, and so I'm going to share a poem that I wrote about my daughter who has special needs. And so this group has given me the opportunity to break through sort of a block of writing about things that are very difficult. And one thing I just want to mention is that we do chat in the beginning. We talk and everyone asks questions about how's that going, and and so the humanity of that is just so precious to me. I really appreciate that. And just being here, and I love Milwaukee. Can I just stay? Can I come back? I love it. So I think that everything is somewhat self-explanatory, but you'll notice that there's some language that's quoted that's not really the speaker of the poem. It's called Behavior Review. I asked the expert for help with my daughter, vested in her safety and mine. It started around puberty, I say, the upper side of outbursts, escalating to a hung and howling moon, footprints gibbous and pickled, blazing a trail marked with mulch and string into her adulthood. At the first sign of precursor behavior, get into a safe place, give her space. Nearsighted since 9, I could not live without the glasses she cracked when she clocked me in the temple, 5 a.m. that frozen morning in Pennsylvania. She wanted out, away. She wanted him, not me, her long-gone father, always perfect and inaccessible. Wait until she is calm. If you push her to talk about it, she escalates more quickly. I can't compose a litany of incidents, each a little better or worse than the last, the aggregate elopement and aggression. Instead, I did not cause this, affirmed by the board-certified behavior analyst. The girls whirled as wolf, as Dalmatian, not schizophrenia or psychosis, but behavior, the label given to the unexplainable. It is unfortunately the parent who is targeted the most. Remember her body, heavy girl turned lithe, chubby hands deft. Remember your body hitting the wall of the pandemic rental, the glorious force of her shoving all the plastic you bought to cover the beds, the landlord, oh, the landlord. The neighbors, 911, the cops' knock that woke you to find her naked in their garden. Less talk is better. Use simple language. Look at the chart, the numbers, target behaviors, aggression, elopement, taking people's belongings. Remember. Then forget it all. Purge a stream of words, write yourself along the poles of parenthood, cold mist of recognition, slide the curtains open, smell the lilies, and the clementines. Quell your power, take refuge. Thank you, Nicole, for last-minute revision input on that one today. And then I'm going to read a poem from my book, The Miracles, again, since I'm new and I haven't been writing with the group that long. This is from my book that came out in 2019. I did mention that my daughters, I have 2 children, and their father is gone. He died in 2010. But this also reminds me that there's a wonderful place in New York City called the KGB Bar. Some of you may have heard of it. And they have poetry readings, and that's where I first met Nicole in person a long time ago, and I heard her read there recently, too. And what's really sad about it is that one of the places that's mentioned, the ice cream place, it's closed. The pandemic killed it, but it's really sad. So anyway, Positively East 4th Street. After the poetry reading, I stopped by Oddfellows Ice Cream Co. and asked the woman if I should get buttermilk blueberry or lemon meringue pie. These are ice cream flavors. He bakes a whole pie to put in it, she tells me reverently. So I buy a cone. It's gone before I get to the train. 20 years ago, you played the Internet Cafe across from the Hells Angels on East 3rd. Parking on that block was difficult, and the guy behind the counter was a jerk, but the jazz was good every night. I always cry for you in the East Village. I have for years now, even back when it was only our marriage that had died. Tonight, though, there are no tears, only ice cream. And there is nothing to compare with the absolute cleanliness of the imaginary, but this is close. The whole pie in the ice cream, every bit as tart and sweet as you expect. Thanks. I am thrilled and delighted to introduce the best laugh in the group. And my dear friend, Robin Reagler.
Thank you, Amy, and I'm the Robin of Rabbit fame from Nicole's poem. Thank you, Woodland Pattern, for having us here, and I don't know, it's just so exciting. I've heard about this place forever, so thanks for ordering our books. Mine out there is called Night Is This Anyway? I'm so nervous that I had to write down the name of my own book. Just in case I forgot it. I'm going to start with a poem called Lullaby for Myself. No, I am always saying there is no one except the dream of someone. You, in fact, as the rain plays and pain taps on the rooftop. No one is listening to the tumbleweed radio station. In the kitchen, I am dancing alone. My mind, bushwhacked by days of restless desire, is kindled as I wait for sleep to punch me hard in the teeth. I move through an evening of routine, uneasy in the emptiness of where I've arrived, living alone without my kids, rocking in my rocking chair, confounded by the tiny bites of time. If you think of me, even once or twice, I hope you will send me a sign, smoky and skyborne, close to the ozone, centuries above the mud, beyond the madness of punctured lungs, beyond the hundreds of apartments on a street called Windswept, beyond the Southern Cross, pursed in the sky, because my loyalty to you blazes there, in that spot, a simple flame, a violent flight aimed at all that I am becoming. The next one, do you ever like ask someone to do something and they say no because they have somewhere to be? Maybe it's just me, I don't know. Anyway, this is called Somewhere to Be. And I did write this one with the group. In the days of shades and dubious accolades, my temperature rises, and the shelves fill with medicines of damp and dubious purposes. A sock lacks its match, but inside it lives a spell that works, or worked once at least, and still smells faintly of cinnamon and maybe vanilla too, a little. I'm in the business of writing spells myself, but lack experience of any kind. My daughters are in Reno for the week, my ex-wife too. They'll let you do anything out west. Tattoos for babies and vaginal steaming for moms. I don't even know what that is. But my kids sent me a picture of the large banner on the side of a high chain link fence. So it is a thing, apparently. My dog sleeps with her shadowy head on my lap and her mouth half open, eyes half open too. I don't sing well, but according to the accordion queen, passion will transport you to a house party filled with living music, and everybody sings out loud despite not knowing the words. I fake my way inside and light the candles with my desire. Thank you. Next up, our dear friend KP Kaszubowski.
Hi. This is my favorite thing. Okay, I'm back in Wisconsin for people who know who I am, and I've been in Washington State for 2 years, and it feels so good. I could scream. I love Wisconsin so much, and I'm so happy that our group is here to see what I mean by, like, you gotta go to the ocean. That's fresh water, called Lake Michigan. Okay. I have one poem, and when I reference sisters, it's absolutely referencing my sisters, and I hope it will be referencing the rest of you too, eventually. Okay, the poem is called, I'm like bending over, Ripe for Disruption. Any tech bros in here? No, okay. I'm figuring it out. Yeah, this is good. Thank you, Nicole Callihan, who's a Virgo. And if she was a city, she'd be Venice. Yeah, this is good, right? Okay. Ripe for disruption. B, asks about my personal pain points ahead of a software brainstorm for a program that could cure me of my ills. She tells me she can't think of a bite-sized problem, easily solved by a well-designed app, easy enough to click around on a Tuesday bus. Everything's complex. Everything is just too complex. I tell her I don't want to worry about war anymore. Here's some pain. Empty walls, no art. B wants leaving to be easier. I want men who believe us when we say keeping is a full house, no one's vocation. I want smut to be revered and to be shared like gifts. Like how shaking out one's hips is the most efficient way to cry. She says, staying quiet doesn't work. I say, the elimination diet is too lonely. I want the food that is killing me to be caught and slaughtered at harvest. I want a barn to be raised to celebrate the smoking of it, breasts naked and dancing. I want a software program to tell me my to-do list is actually for the month and not for this one day when I'd be more useful in sleep. I want money to feel safe. I want a librarian for the internet. Right? Okay. I need many librarians for the internet. My pain points, look, how much there is with only 2 hands. B says we could whittle an escape boat. B asks, what if we knew where to look? Chat roulette for free therapy. A grimoire for the gossip inside that spoils me. How sisters remedy the isolation of our times. They remind me to move slowly, not to drink the ocean before they've boiled it. You are so thirsty. I am 13 again, writing with strangers on the internet without the risk of meeting them. That's not true about us, that's fine. Or them seeing how I live like this. Sharing my senses like what sex might feel like if I gave aliens the wrong name. I want AI Louise Gluck to write my friend's eulogy. I want to pay attention to you and me and you paying attention to me. Wow, okay, hi. So, how does one give Michele fucking Kotler, so we can't curse, okay, Michele Kotler an introduction. I was trying to think of the best way to put this, but I think the best thing to do is say that when I'm trying to be gentle to myself in my own head, I very often hear your voice.
Thank you, KP. That's beautiful. I am so happy to be here, and that's an understatement. And I love Milwaukee. I'm a native New York City woman, and I think Milwaukee rocks. And it's such a good place to all gather and to just love and to listen and to be. And thank you for having us here. Come over here and do that. I dare you. This from an open window at the edge of spring, so soon after we changed our clocks to make our days longer, how we play with light, and day starts and day ends. Just yesterday, as I sat with innocence doing my day job solo, I felt my leg being grabbed. It had to be my mother, all spirit, all no longer physically alive. Still, she had such grip. Her hands were influence and imminent, myth and price, disruption and lineage. I was unstitched and uncorded. I'm still finding the benefits of solid ground. And she told me young that comparing is a waste of measuring. Why hold 2 things so close together for no reason but to see what you don't have, re-angle, unhush the margins, re-portrait, unpierce. So you're hearing this again and again, and it's true. So many of us were stuck in our writing or stuck in different places in our lives. And this group just gave us new soil, new breath, new sky, new ocean. Who wants unfinished business? The Dutch like to say, acting normal is crazy enough. What is luxury anyway? If you were to pour me, I would come slow and thick, like a forever accent, no matter how long you have lived in this adopted tongue. It is always second, river me through this divorce. I never wanted to split. My overbite is coming back. My teeth, unbraced for decades, are moving where they were born. And I feel like my teeth. Who is with me? Who will be my sugar skull as I'm unbraced and pushing through? I can't wait to shimmy again, to sequent time and light and crush. This butcher grief that is its own cut of bone and meat and red. I can't wait to undress this tightly pulled and pinched grief that is its own corset, its own sheet of time. Who wants unfinished business anyway? Let's ditch the vacuous and find new sugar. Let's be the accelerator and pollinator. All at once, let's unblank and reboss, unhem and untoss, unpinch and unloss, unbrick and uncrumble, unnumb and unsung. Did I already ask who's with me? Did I already say new song? Last one, on a happy note. Last night. Because we are new to one another, we are learning what we can order and how much it takes to become full and who we can leave our leftovers with so the strangers we pass can be less hungry, and how long has it been since either of us weren't starving from not having enough, and because we were born in the same city, in the same decade, our words accent each other, and both of our speeches were corrected, so only when we are tired do we hear how we sounded when we were growing up. And when you said good morning to me after a night of not letting go of one another, your accent was thick and insulated and so strong I could taste the avenue where you were born. And last night, as we let the almost full moon light our teeth, as we walked and talked our birth city after seeing beautiful dancers trace and retrace their steps, especially the solo piece where she seemed to skim water, and we walked past a patch of cemetery left intact between skyscrapers, and I had never seen these gravestones that were so worn their letters and numbers were blurred, and for this to be new to me, like you are new to me, all made sense. And the man that we gave the pizza that we couldn't finish wanting to hug me, and you helped pull me away on heels that gave me a new angle to hear you, to swallow your accent whole, to be closer to what I didn't even know I wanted to reach. So this is my third trip to this beautiful city. And I'm so lucky to have these women in my life. And Janet, you just bring so much love and so much grace. If JP hears gentle with me, I hear grace with you. So I'm so happy and proud to bring Janet up.
Hi, everyone. I was born into a family of men. Obviously, I had a mother, but but she was very male-like. Wasn't real feminine. So to have this group of women as my sisters is just incredible. I'm going to read a poem, though. I'm going to read two poems that reference tornadoes. And I don't know if you heard, but I guess there were like tornadoes touching down in Chicago today, which is really wild. And one of our sons lives in Chicago. But one of my first sisters was one of my brother's girlfriends. Her name was Rochelle. She left us over 10 years ago, but she was one of my first Girl Scout leaders. So this is a poem that happened on my first Girl Scout trip, overnight camp. And it was in northern Illinois, and it's called Sunday Morning Coming Down. And that is thank you to Chris Christopherson for that title. Sunday morning coming down. Smoke rose from our little fire, an infusion of bacon and eggs, reminding us of home. 4 walls. The night before it rained so hard our pillows floated. How we did not drown, I'll never know. My mom reported the next morning how the lightning made a zipper down the tent opening, how her oohs and ahs, as if she were watching fireworks, were not a comfort to Tammy's mom, who did not share my mother's joy of nature. That camping trip was legend, our 4th grade selves alive in stinky clothes and greasy bangs. I'm not sure if it was the mint tea or a sliver of vermouth that calmed Tammy's mom, but Saturday was bright, flooded with forsythia and folly, communion along a riverbank, linking hands, leaping one by one over the indigo coiling beneath us. None of that prepared us for Sunday. Sunrise sirens directed us out of our tents and into the barn, where we huddled, thankful for rock and stone, mortar, and raised our voices to the Lord, loud as we could, to not hear the trees grunt and groan, to rise above the slap of the approaching twister. And then this one is for our son Andres, who lives in Chicago. This is how you see color for Andres. Green. Oh, Andres is colorblind. And which we did not find out until he was tested in kindergarten. So thank you, public schools, for testing our children to see what their eyesight is like. This is how you see in color for Andres. Green. Green is the color of grass and tropical birds and the bright fabric in the mola hanging in your room. No, it is not from Colombia, like you are, but Panama. Its neighbor. Yes, very good. Panama once was a part of Colombia, but don't say that to a Panamanian. This is red. It means stop, whereas green means go. I don't know why red means stops, but it does. It is at the bottom of the traffic light. Green is at the top. You must remember that. Yes, red is also at the bottom of the Colombian flag. It is also in the flag of this country. It represents blood, blood outside the body. And then there is blue, like the sky. A spring morning sky is robin's egg blue. Twilight above the water is sometimes turquoise blue. A stormy sky is dark blue, especially in the winter. Here, a stormy summer sky can be green. That is when you run and hide in a ditch, burrow into the ground like a rodent. Do not come out until the sky is blue again. But how will I know when the sky is green? You will feel it. You will feel it come to you. First, a vibration in your feet, then a lightness in your skin. Then the quiet will paralyze you. When you hear the roar, it is too late. said, it is my pleasure to introduce the last reader of our evening, Anna VQ Ross, who drove all across the Northern Plains in about almost a day to be here with us. Please welcome Anna.
Thank you all for being here and for weathering the whole reading. I live in Boston, but I was coming from Montana. And this is my first time also in Milwaukee. It's a beautiful city, so I will definitely come back. And I think I'm the newest member of the group here. I think I came in just after Amy. But I remember the very first time I heard The Matrix, which was in Philadelphia in 2022 when you all gave a reading together, and I thought, oh, I want to be part of that. And so I'm just really, how often do you get exactly what you want? So I'm really excited to be here and to be the caboose. And I'm going to start by reading the very first poem that I wrote with The Matrix. It's part of a series I've been working on for a long time, and you'll notice I'm going to read two of them, and they share the same title and the same first line, and they end in the same word. All my poems used to end in sky, but now they end in sleep. My pillow, an inarticulate beast flattened beneath me. What animal do I most resemble here, all these years in the same sheets? When I get up to address the bloat on my phone, family requests, a message from the dentist, and already there have been 113 mass shootings in 2023, or the South Carolina state representative who wants to make abortion punishable by death penalty, I'll see my neighbor's text about her pet rescue bunny, Lil Poof, bright white and bred to have short ears so she'd look cute for Easter baskets, then deafened by an infection in her deformed eustachian tubes. Feeling spring coming on, she slithered through a gap in her cage and hopped a gate into the living room to gnaw a lamp cord. Pretty sure it was instant, my neighbor says. Only one bunny left to feed when you come by next week. What would Derrida say about this? The meaning behind the meaning? Or maybe it wasn't the season after all, but a decision. Enough's enough of this false twig and straw. She must have chewed it at just the right spot. They saw it happen, couldn't stop her final undulation into quiet that we'll say looks just like sleep. So that Derrida reference came from our conversation before we started writing. And was thanks to Ruth, actually, who explained to me what Derrida talks about. So I live in Boston, and we've been having a lot of trouble with our public transportation there recently. I don't know if it's made the news out here, but things have been falling off the rails, literally, and also catching on fire. So the Orange Line is one of the branches of the subway in Boston. All my poems used to end in sky, but now they end in sleep, a kind of tumbling toward the inevitable. Or maybe that's just what I want to believe, like the anonymous woman on the burning Orange Line train last week who jumped from the smoking window of the first car and then 30 feet off the Mystic River Bridge where the train had stopped. I think I'm safer here, she told her would-be rescuers in the Coast Guard boat before she swam to shore and disappeared. Boston's new hero, crowed the headlines the next day, and maybe that's just where we're at right now, America. A woman uncoupling herself from burning steel to dive into a brackish current famed for absorbing heavy metals, petrochemicals, and other bodies, then swimming away without leaving her name. In the video posted on Twitter, her head is a small dark blot, almost obscured by halos of ripples as the camera pans from too far away to find her face. Boston strong. Probably she was already late for work, people joked in the thread. But maybe she was on her way home from the overnight shift, I thought, but didn't say. A job she fell into years ago, never meaning to stay until the kids came along and she couldn't afford to pay both rent and a sitter. Now she relies on the jerk and clatter of the orange line to lull her back each morning over the bridge toward bed. I was very scared for all of us, she said, before hanging up on the one reporter who tracked her down. I imagined her turning over and pulling up the sheet, erasing herself back to sleep. I should say that was recently published in the Illinois Review, so thank you to Marcella Sulak, who took it from me for their money issue. They do themed issues. So I'm going to finish with the last poem from this book, Flutter Cake, that just came out last November. And it's an ekphrastic poem that responds to a piece by a North Dakotan artist called Shelley Julian Bundy, who did a long series of portraits of North Dakotan women, and all of them are identified at the bottom by a caption that identifies them by their nearest male relative. So that caught my attention. So this one is based on the painting. This is Mrs. Lawrence Schlegel from Hettinger, North Dakota. She left for good one time, but came back. Nobody ever asked about it. One time. She left for good one time, but came back. She let her hair grow long and the grays come in. Nobody ever asked about it, but she left for good one time. She followed the fence line out, the grass dry and rust-tipped where it chased her calves. She was wearing the wrong shoes and no socks either, but she'd left, and it was for good. 2 does started from their beds under the choke cherry. They cleared the top wire of the fence almost before she'd seen them and kept moving into the trees by the ditch. She was going and she was gone, mosquitoes tracking her shoulder blades, wringing her ankles. She kept the fence line to her left and the creek to her right as she left for good, for better or worse, the dishes and whatever had been said at dinner, the whole damn dinner. She was leaving, she was and was and was, the smell of her falling under sagebrush, no wind yet, and the sun not down. You'll take what God gives you, they'd said, as her children wriggled beside her and the last bite on her plate gave her the fisheye. But she'd left for good, and the creek agreed, flashing the last acre until it slid under the single barbed strand that marked the neighbor's land, and someone else called someone else into supper. It would be bedtime soon, the night hawks buzzing the trees for insects, their chicks lodged among river stones below. It had been for good when she left, all of it, she knew, and also that someone would need a last drink of water now and a song from when you were little. Someone would need to touch her hair, to pat it softly until sleep came this time and for good. Thank you.
So, we want to thank you so much for coming and for tuning in, to people tuning in on Crowdcast and the folks that came out. We really appreciate it. Also, I know a lot of the audience is ourselves, but if anybody has any questions about, how we work as a group, or about, a question for anybody about poems they read or anything, we're happy to take questions.
And if not, we're happy to go drink.
Yes. No questions? Okay. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Woodland Pattern. We love you, Woodland Pattern.